Hey Apple Seeders, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the MapleStory Next update. The showcase just dropped and I'm so excited about the quality of life changes as well as some of the updates coming to the game. Before we get into that, let's recap everything that's happened so far since the last time we saw each other.
It's Appleseed!
Starting off with my weekly bossing on my Evan, after defeating Hard Dark Nell, I was able to get the Commanding Force earrings. You have no idea how hype I was when this happened. That's another pitch boss accessory down. I also started learning how to defeat Varus Hilla, which is so difficult. Honestly, this boss might be the worst boss of all time next to Damien. I have absolutely no idea how these mechanics work. I mean, I've been researching and studying how to fight this boss, but honestly, the mechanics are just all over the place for me, and I definitely need a lot more practice. So if anybody out there wants to party and learn how to defeat this boss together, let me know in the comments below, because I need to start liberating. Back on my Shade Hyperburn, I was finally able to hit level 257, truly an accomplishment. You'll notice that I've been going through this a lot quicker than usual, but that's honestly because I've just been doing dailies every day and there hasn't really been much new content going on. We're kind of hitting a stagnant point in this update where we're just patiently waiting for the next part of the update, and so I didn't want to bore you guys with the same repetition, but in the last week, all I really did was sign on, do dailies, and then try to push level 260 as soon as possible. I also took a stab at Lotus and Damien. I figured it was finally time to test the waters and see how fast I can clear Lotus and Damien. And to my surprise, I mean, I don't know if I would say to my surprise because Shade is very strong after his revamp, but I was able to clear them relatively fast, so I'm super happy about that and excited to add Shade to my new Bossing Mule roster. The 5th drop Bomb Punch skill is so powerful. The fact that it comes up every minute is so good, especially as a boss mule, because you're clearing bosses as soon as possible, so being able to burst every boss is so good. Overall, I really enjoyed the Shade rework. I did play a little bit of Shade in the past, but I wouldn't say that I was an expert by any means. The last Shade that I had was probably level 220, and I didn't really go far with him, so this time being able to level all the way to 260, getting to try out the 5th job, and possibly the 6th job. I don't know if I'm going to do 6th job yet, just because the quest takes so long. Eventually, I will do the 6th job, maybe when I'm not being lazy. Overall, had a really great experience. The class is very strong, so I highly recommend if you're a new player, or if you're a new player trying to make bossing mules, definitely think about picking up a Shade. They have practically no buffs. You know, you have a really good bind that lasts pretty short of a cooldown, especially because one of your 5th job skills resets the cooldown. That's insane. Like, no other class has that, I don't think. So being able to reset your bind is so essential, especially if you're going to be clearing multiple bosses at a time, trying to do it as fast as possible. And then on top of the fact that you have a 1-minute burst, is insane. The 5th drop Bomb Punch skill, which I literally need to learn the actual name of the skill, but for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna call it the 5th drop Bomb Punch skill. It is so powerful, and it's so ASMR to just hear the amount of punching happening. You feel strong when you use the skill, and I love when skills make you feel strong. Shade also has really good mobbing, which you wouldn't expect Shade to have really good mobbing. A lot of classes that have these type of punching skills, melee close-up combat abilities, they don't really have that good mobbing, or at least that's like the perception of the class's mobbing. But Shade, their Bomb Punch can hit 3 platforms. That's insane. For their primary attacking skill to just be that AoE is awesome. So they're very good at training. I had a very fun time playing Shade. I know that some people don't really enjoy classes where you're doing the same skill over and over again. That's why combo classes exist. But in my opinion, I really love combo classes and I love classes that are just one key. So Shade is definitely one of those one key classes where when you're bossing, you're going to be using Spirit Claw 99% of the time, followed by your 1-minute burst. And then also Spirit Gate is insanely powerful of a burst as well. So you kind of have like 2 mini bursts that you can stack on top of each other because they both have the same cooldown. Insane. And they both work as mobbing skills. I mean, Spirit Gate definitely works as a mobbing skill. and then you just have really good mobbing outside of bossing. So overall, this whole hyperburning experience, I would probably rate Shade an 8 out of 10. I think Shade is a super fun, super good, well-rounded class. And with that being said, I finally hit level 260, which marks the end of this Shade hyperburning journey. After completing my weekly preserving secret records, I was finally able to hit level 272 on my Evan. I can't believe I'm almost level 300, how insane is that? Before I get into my thoughts on the next update, I want to mention that everything I'm going to be discussing is from the perspective of a heroic player. I do not play interactive, and I have not played interactive since 2014, which is 10 years ago. Sounds insane to say out loud because am I really that old? Starting with the Genesis weapon revamp, I haven't even started liberating yet on my Evan, so this is gonna be such a game changer since I'll be able to get my Genesis weapon much faster. If you can solo bosses, then you'll be able to liberate in 3 months time. Hopefully I'll be able to liberate around that time, but who even knows because I only have 80 mil CP as of recording. But honestly, anything to chop off that 8-month liberation period is super welcome, considering I haven't even started yet. Next up, we have the Grandest Symbol Dailies improvement. I feel like there's no point in lowering the daily mob count for Grandest region since the Urda daily still requires you to defeat 3,000 mobs. I definitely think the Urda daily should have been changed to a weekly and you get 5 times the rewards, or possibly lower the daily mob count to 2,000, possibly less. Monster Park Extreme is going to become a weekly, which is such a welcome change because I feel like there are currently so many systems in the game, including new events, that forces you to either complete everything daily or you're just gonna feel FOMO. This would easily cause burnout since you have to log in, do all kinds of Arcane Grandest dailies, then you have the Urda daily, event dailies, Monster Park, Maple Tour, if anyone even does that anymore, Ursus, Gollux, this, that, and the third. It gets real tiring when you're doing this about 5 to 7 times a week depending on how much you play, so turning more dailies into a weekly will just make the Maple experience feel less overwhelming, and it can alleviate a lot of burnout from repetition. One of my favorite quality of life changes coming are the skill buff sequences. This is going to be such a game changer. I feel like there is such an imbalance amongst classes where some classes have no buffs and then you have other classes with 10 plus buffs. Being able to macro all your buffs into one key is a much welcome change, especially since the game is incentivizing bossing mules and not everyone wants to buy 3 pets, add auto buffs to every character, cause that costs money. Also, any change that helps us free keyboard space is welcome. I know my Evan mains out there can relate. Let's talk about the Hyper Burning Max. 5 levels every time you level up is honestly insane. Not really much to discuss here. I mean, remember how big of a milestone reaching level 250 was? Now we're hitting level 260 in like 2 to 3 weeks. Soon, it'll be a weekly thing. New level 260s in a week or less, possibly. It's also so funny to think how I was able to hit level 260 on my Shade in practically 2.5 weeks, and it took me 2.5 years of on and off playing to get my Evan to level 272, so I just thought that was really funny. But this Hyper Burning Max is going to make creating bossing mules a lot easier and speedier. This is also such a good change because new players will be able to catch up to a lot of the veteran players in no time. Honestly, I'm surprised we didn't get a revamp on Damien, Kaiser, or the Resistant, but then again, we're finally getting our last 2 masteries, which is so exciting. I should have known that the X in Next was alluding to the X when you open up the Hexa menu, and also Hexa has an X in the same spot that the word Next has. Anyways, let's take a look at the new Hexa masteries. Anytime there's an update to existing classes or there's a new class being added to the game, it's always so exciting to see what Nexon has to implement. I actually predicted the masteries that Evan was going to receive. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you're an Evan player, but the thing I was most looking forward to was the new animations. My first impression was how epic everything looks. Earth Circle looks so badass, honestly, when compared to how it looks currently. I will say that Dragon Dive does look very similar to the 5th drop skill Dragon Slam. I honestly couldn't really tell a difference. Earth Dive looks so cool. I wonder if the skill will be able to triple platform, but I doubt it since our mobbing is already so insanely good. The horizontal reach does look very far, which is great. I don't know how I feel about the fiery elements that we're getting in the new animations, just because we already have fire-based skills and it could get lost in translation. I feel like we should have stuck with more of a rock or earth type theme to the earth skills, but that's just my opinion. For me, Thunder Dive feels very lackluster still. It's one of those niche Evan abilities that don't really have any practical use in training or even bossing. The only time I ever use this ability is when I do Culvert, and even then, it gets lost as a skill. The numbers, according to Orange Mushroom, don't seem that great either considering how strong some of our other Hexa masteries are. I feel like the lightning balls that appear off the ground shouldn't disappear anymore when they come into contact with enemies. It should kind of be like Damien's blue balls or Buccaneer's Spirit Orb, where it passes through enemies and does tons of lines. I guess that might overload Evan's kit, but I can see how well that would synergize with Evan's gameplay since we're a combo-based class that relies on our dragon to perform attacks. This would actually improve the skill, add usefulness in both bossing and mobbing, and work in hand with the whole philosophy of how Evan is played as a class. I wouldn't even mind if the damage numbers stayed similar and we rework how the skill works and get more lines with each ball that passes through an enemy. I mean, even in this new animation, the balls are floating slowly, like they're meant to pass through enemies and deal tons of lines. Let me know if that makes sense. As for Wind Circle, I would have liked to see more of that dark purple lightning color scheme going on. We have a skill called Dark Fog that aesthetically doesn't really fit with any of Evan's other skills, so it would have been nice to tie that all together with more of that color palette. I think this would have been the perfect opportunity to also turn magic debris into a dark purple lightning ball, but instead we got this red ball, which I don't hate. I like how colorful Evan is as a class, but if we wanted to go a little more thematic here, I personally would have made the animation of a flying purple lightning ball instead of the red ball, and then also for Wind Circle, a little bit more of that purple lightning. As for the fire skills, Dragon Breath looks insanely cool. I'm actually very happy with how they did the fire skills. When I was internally predicting what I wanted for Evan's new masteries, I was envisioning that we would get some really cool Earth Breath mastery where the fire looks like a laser and they made it look so much more intense. Kind of like how Luminous Reflection mastery turned the skill into this absolutely badass laser beam. Breath of Wind does look a little flat in my opinion compared to the other fire skills. I feel like they should have added a little bit more of orange, made it a little darker, maybe added some red. It would have given us a more well-rounded animation in my opinion. Overall, I'm really happy with new animations that we got. The one thing I will say is I'm surprised we didn't get a return flame mastery where we got a bigger AoE with the fire or we made the animation look more intense, but overall very satisfied with these masteries. Let me know how your class's new masteries feel. Are you happy about the new animations or underwhelmed and feel like Nexon cheaped out on you? What would you have wanted instead? And also let me know your thoughts on the next update overall. What are your favorite quality of life changes and what did you not like about the update? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I've been feeling a little burnt out from the game recently since the event is winding down and we're getting the next part of the update soon. Also, now that I've reached level 260 on my shade and the holidays are right around the corner, I feel like this is the perfect time to just decompress since I'll be creating my next hyperburn soon. Who will I be hyperburning next? Looks like you'll have to stick around and find out. Finish eating that apple.